The rabbinic leadership crisis is the single most important crisis American Jews face today. Full stop. I'm actually not interested in embracing any other questions on that front. Global warming is the greatest crisis we face as human beings. Rabbis for Jews. And we are failing right now miserably. But one of the things that we are missing, to go back to evangelical Christianity, is like a sense of pastoral responsibility. There's a great group of young emerging rabbis, including Rabbi Minkus, who I helped raise in certain ways. And let me just be clear, the Ramah model was always a node in a complicated network of a variety of different institutions that would raise our kids to be leaders.
And there are a lot of people with a lot of theories on this question. I recently heard Yehuda Kurtzer, who's one of the president of the North American side of the Shalom Hartman Institute, say that he thinks kind of the polarity between excellence on the one side and complete sort of inclusion, equality, and uplifting every voice on the other side, that inside of that tension lies the rabbi shortage, because it used to be that rabbis were the 1%, that you only did this job if you were excellent at text and they really deemed you. But now, like any old person who wants to be a rabbi, like we want everybody in the door, let them all in, gosh, we need more rabbis. So, and he said, if that's gonna be the standard, then who wants to do that? Like people actually wanna do a job that requires excellence. I don't know if I buy that. When I heard him say that, I thought, I think people don't wanna be rabbis because they're afraid of not being able to be themselves once they get ordained. And they'll go to synagogues, and the synagogue will tell them, you can say this, but you can't say this. You can, the joke was always like, Rabbi, we want you to come and revolutionize the synagogue, come in, change the service, but not Adon Olam. Yeah, but also not the way we do the Amidah. We need that to, and just one by one, chip away at anything the rabbi might do to actually meaningfully change the experience of being at shul. And you're like, what kind of fun is that? That's not creative. That's, and David said when he wrote to all of us with the questions, look, we planned this panel long before October 7th. I'm not going to ask you any questions about Israel, but I think we can't not say that there is an increasing chasm between the generations when it comes to Israel. Young rabbis, or young rabbinical students, prospective rabbinical students, are further to the left. We know this from statistics. This is, it's not controversial to say this. And when you get out into the world, you are told what is within bounds to say and to not say. And I think for many young prospective rabbis, they're like, if I can't authentically speak, if I can't be myself, why would I go into this job? Isn't authenticity actually a really important part of being a good rabbi? I can't count the number of times somebody has said to me, one of the things I like about Mishkan, Rabbi Lizzie, is that I feel like you're the same person on the bima as you are when I have a conversation with you. Like, I don't feel like you're pretending up there to be a different kind of person or like more moral or more spiritual or something. Like, I kind of feel like you're just you. And that's true. I actually made a point of creating a community in which I didn't have to pretend. That's a benefit of creating your own community. You can build it around, your own strengths. Like, I wanted to play guitar in shul. I wanted to do that, so I get to do that. But even I, in the shul that I created, am feeling the strains of this right now.
There is no prospective rabbi shortage. There is a job, there is a salary shortage in the work that these prospective rabbis want to do. If Svara said we are ready to ordain, we would have hundreds of people lining up to be rabbis ordained by Svara. But we would have to tell them, you're not going to make a living. Not for the next generation, or maybe 2, or maybe 3. That you are going to be rabbis like the wood choppers and the water carriers and the shoemakers of the early rabbinic period, when you're going to have to figure out how to make a living, and you're going to rabbi on the side, and you're going to raise up communities and figure out what Judaism is going to look like the way they did. And that's a very tough sell. But I think that's the future we're looking at. I think we're looking at a non-professional, unpaid rabbinic era.
There's a good portion of my board right now that's really anxious about the conservative movement for good reason. It's a rational anxiety. And one of the things that I keep telling them is that the fears about the movement are real and they're long in coming and I wish we could change them, all sorts of things. But the conservative movement in this way, in a great way, has very little to do with conservative synagogues. That's part of the Achilles heel of the movement. But our conservative synagogues are not going anywhere. The vast majority of the conservative synagogues in the Midwest are not going anywhere. And what I'm concerned about with this rabbinic pipeline thing is those shuls will not have rabbis. And that is a great fear for me. Part of what solves the rabbinic pipeline is a dramatic shift in how the lay leaders of liberal synagogues view their staff. And I say this on behalf of my good friend David and on behalf of lots of other rabbis, but part of the problem, boards need to operate from a position of scarcity and a concern that if this rabbi doesn't work out, you don't know if you're getting another one. And that has to change work-life balance. It has to change how we think about salary and benefit compensation. It has to think how we deal with your legitimate feelings about the sermon on Shabbat morning or the eulogy at your loved one's funeral or whatever else is going on. All of those things, because that shift, I don't think it's the biggest part, but is part of the challenge that we're facing. Part of this is recognizing strong synagogues, a new generation of innovative young rabbis, all of that stuff, and we're seeing that happen, and that gives me great hope for the future.
Against the backdrop of a shrinking liberal community and a growing Orthodox community, we're not talking about Orthodox Judaism, we're here talking about non-Orthodox Judaism. So all the rabbinical schools are contracting, and there is a serious question about how they're going to, the whole thing. And the Renewal, Reconstructionist, and Hebrew College are growing. And relevantly, Hebrew College is non-denominational. Renewal doesn't really consider itself a movement, though at some point you need a structure that, actually supports rabbis connecting with each other and maybe, a 401k plan or something that, all of the markers of an institution. If they don't wildly succeed, it'll be because they don't embrace the need for sort of the infrastructure of institution building, which is, I think, where a lot of the charismatic, smart, motivated young rabbis who want to be leaders might hit a wall, which is at that point of creating the infrastructure to actually house the innovation and the creativity that, it would be amazing to spread. But, you for a long time were just doing this kind of by your lonesome. Not everybody would stick it out for as long as you did with the kind of selfless giving of yourself, your time, your money to put your dream into the world. Most people can't afford that, and you can't tread water forever. And so I do think that's, part of the conversation is that the movements themselves are constraining and not speaking to people anymore, but there are people who want the thing that the movements used to provide, and we need new structures for holding it.